31. Bookends. The scribe Quartinian wrote, "The return against all odds of the missing chronoscape was interpreted by the people as the one good omen that presaged Rassilon's assumption of power. Otherwise, the Pythia's terrible death curse took instant effect. Babies died in their mothers' wombs. From that day on, no child was ever born on Gallifrey again." Rassilon played with the onion doll while he waited. It was a ridiculous object. With a twist of the hand, the toy could be split into two hemispheres to reveal another pattern sphere nestling inside. But the onion inside was bigger than the first. Impossible. And inside that onion was another onion, bigger still. Rassilon's desk was already littered with coloured onion shells. Soon his office would be impossible to get into. Lord Doubtroyal walked in unannounced. His red-heeled boots left patches of melting snow on the floor. He had come from another funeral. "How's the toe?" "Painful as usual." Rassilon pushed away the latest onion section. "There must be a simple solution to this wretched thing." Doubtroyal looked grave. "I was, sorry to hear of your loss," he said. "It would have been a girl," Rassilon said. "Her mother has taken it badly. Her mother... What am I talking about? She'll never be a mother now." He fiddled with the onion shells. "It's strange. In a way, it brings us even closer to the people. They know that we suffer too." Doubtroyal weighed one of the onion shells in his hand. "The council are preparing to offer you a new crown." "Again?" interrupted a voice by the ornamental stove in the corner. "Isn't twice enough?" Doubtroyal glowered into the shadows. "I didn't see you there," he muttered disdainfully. Rassilon was shaking his head. "I cannot take ultimate responsibility. I will only share leadership." He unscrewed the latest onion and found yet another inside. It was bigger than ever. There was a polite cough. Thrift was standing in the doorway. "Apologies, Mayor Papa, but the new hero is waiting to see you." "Must I see him?" Rassilon complained. "Can't this wait?" "No," said the other councillor beside the fire. Thrift went out. "Why me?" demanded Rassilon. "Why do the people see me as their deliverer?" The other leaned forward to the samovar and helped himself to another glass of tea. "Because you're one of them. You said it yourself." "Which is more than can be said for you," muttered Doubtroyal. He looked up as the young hero entered the room. "Quinisander Olyesti Peccary, come in, please," said Rassilon. "The return of your ship has given us all the greatest pleasure in this desperate time." "Thank you, uncle," said Peccary. He wore the official uniform of one who has been honoured. The wheal of a cruel scar across his face was not hidden. He looked older than his years. One eye was a blank orb. He sat down in Lord Doubtroyal's proffered chair. Rassilon handed Peccary a glass of tea. "We've all read your report," he said. "Extraordinary. I should have guessed that the Pythia would have an agent on board as well." They talked long through the evening, going over Peccary's report in detail. When food came, Peccary ate little. He had developed an addiction for plain, dry biscuits and found most other food unpalatable. Time and again he returned excitedly to the subject of the ship that was infinitely variable in form and smaller on the outside than in. His eyes grew wilder. "And it was from Gallifrey, from the stolen future. So you see, the time experiments will work. One day we shall travel in ships like that." Doubtroyal burst into sudden laughter. "And this other pilot, this doctor, he sounds a strange fellow, whatever his powers." The other stared coldly from his chair. "Is that how we shall be in the future? Strange and small?" He caught Rassilon's wounded reaction and added quickly, "Present company accepted, of course." "I should have spoken to the doctor further," insisted Peccary. "I would have done in the future, but his ship was still a marvel. It travelled by Artron power, not by its crew's will." Rassilon smiled indulgently. "We have seen through a window. It is a possibility we must take into consideration. Peccary was almost fanatical. "But there's work to do. We've already started. One day we'll be the lords of time." "There are far graver matters pressing," said Rassilon. "The time program is suspended until further notice." "But, Uncle," Rassilon's eyes blazed, "we can't pour treasons into a bottomless vortex. Not when our people face extinction through a witch's curse. The time program is suspended." He turned away, shaking. Peccary came to attention. "My nurse is waiting," he said flatly. "Thank you. The hospital is very comfortable." He bowed and walked to the door, but a hand touched his shoulder. "Go and see Omega at the science faculty," said the other. "I'll arrange it. He'll be interested in what you have to say." Peccary left silently. After a moment, Doubtroyal made his excuses and departed for another funeral. "That was cruel," said Rassilon. "But necessary," said the other. "Poor unhappy fellow." Rassilon glared up at him. "Don't you have a family? Don't you care about the future?" "Your future or mine?" He smiled grimly. His every movement radiated dark and calculated power. "Isn't the present enough to be going on with?" He picked up the onion kernel. "An amusing toy. It can go on forever. Always another mystery inside the first." Rassilon snatched up 2 of the half shells, bigger on the inside. "But if you invert the process, the original fits neatly inside the second, and so on, like so." He completed the trick. "That's not what I meant." "But I'm right, aren't I?" said Rassilon. He turned for confirmation, but the other, as usual, was nowhere to be seen. Quartinian continues. There are many conflicting accounts of Rassilon's rise. In one sense, Gallifrey without the Pythia was a far from barren world. Great advances are often born in moments of direst need. As a new ice age set in, Rassilon faced the imminent extinction of the Gallifreyan race. Colony worlds throughout the Empire were demanding their independence. Sanctions and wars threatened to dissolve the Empire completely. New solutions had to be implemented, and drastically fast. Out of this turmoil grew the sapling of the New Order. The need to survive created the concept of rationalised families, born through their own genetic looms, that would stabilise the decimated population. Thus were founded the great houses of Gallifrey that we know today. New laws and trade pacts were created. Later came the triumphs of regeneration and, at last, time travel. Thus Rassilon mocked the Pythia's curse and single-handedly inspired the legend and folklore that is still the root of our society and power. Isn't it dark? Isn't it cold? Seek out the future before you get old. Once there were children, this is their doom. Now all the people are born from the loom. Mid-Gallifreyan nursery verse. "Begat, begat, begat," complained the doctor. "Useless." He pulled angrily at the ticker tape that spewed from the dusty TARDIS console. Ace watched him through the tangle of furniture and knickknacks that filled the control room. She was getting frightened. The light flickered. The whine of growing power was grating her nerves. "Professor," she called. Families. No one's had real families since. He was trying to juggle another magnetic card into the console. Families, thought Ace. She suddenly remembered a sliver of a borrowed dream when she had glimpsed what she thought was his family. Cousins and more cousins in a distant mountainous country. No mothers or fathers, just cousins. But in the TARDIS library there was a birthday card, old and yellowing, and on it in willowy writing was, "Happy birthday, grandfather." "I must know what happened," he snapped feverishly. "Where?" "On Gallifrey. To the Pythia. I can't remember what happened at the end of the old time." "Who's the Pythia? There's no need to get so worked up." "It should be here on the records." He ignored the whine of piling energy and squinted at the tape. "The intuitive revelation, the sacrifice of Omega. No, before all that." "Doctor, turn the power down," she called, starting to clamber over the furniture. "It sounds well out of order, and so do you." "Aha!" he cried, pulling eagerly at the latest tape. "This is it. Then the Pythia cried a great cry and laid her curse upon the world. But the followers of Rassilon rose up and cast her into the abyss. The last of the Pythias perished, and her followers fled Gallifrey. Thus Rassilon came to power, but henceforth the world was barren. The Doctor paused in astonishment. He pulled angrily at the tape. Is that all? Who wrote this stuff? The blare of power seethed higher. He yanked out the card and read the inscription. Typical, the authorised version, the legendary whitewash of Rassilon, perpetuated by Barusa and Cortinian's interminable fawning idolatry. No wonder I always slept through history lessons. He turned to Ace with a look of angry despair. Now I'm never going to know what really happened. Does it matter? She shouted above the din. You've got the TARDIS back. Just cut the turbos, will you? The whole ship juddered with the surging power. Ace felt nauseous. She could smell burning. She reached for the controls, but his hand slapped her away. My TARDIS, he growled. A new, cold determination was in his eyes. You're right, Ace, of course you are. Now we've seen what it can do. I never realised its potential before. There's nothing my ship can't be. It's not just a passepartout to the universe. The possibilities are infinite. Who cares about the world outside? We can create our own in here. No, Professor, she shouted, grasping his arms. That was in Crisis. The power was screaming in her head. It reflected in his eyes. She thought he would burn her. Anything we like, Ace. Just name it. Anything. We can make the stars sing. Infinite beauty, infinite mystery, and infinite power in the process. All here in my TARDIS. We need never go out again. Ace hit the Doctor across the face. There was an extraordinary flash of light. The lamp that burns on the roof of the police box that spins in the void explodes like a safety valve. The power dwindled and settled into a steady, familiar hum. The Doctor, his hat battered, his jumper in shreds, clung to the side of the console. His breath was coming in short gasps. I shall never know now. I shall never know, he whispered. He clasped his leg and groaned. He was shivering. Ace fished his discarded jacket out of the jumbled furniture and draped it gently round his shoulders. I'm just a bookend, he said faintly, holding up one end of the universe, and I can't see what's happening at the other end of the shelf. It's all right, Professor, she said. It's all over now. Ace. Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Ace. He looked completely stunned by his ordeal. We'd been to one extreme. We had to go to the other to balance it out. Yeah, all right. She hugged him and felt him relax a little. Will the ship be okay now? It'll take time to restore completely, but it's holding together, just. No more banshees or cats? Not now. They only appear in the direst need, even when the cloister bell doesn't work. I wondered what had happened to that. She looked at the chaos surrounding them. It'll take months to clean up. Do you really need all this stuff? He still clung to the console. There are things I can't get into my pockets. He reached towards the flight coordinate keyboard. Professor, shouldn't we wait before we go bombing off somewhere? I have business to deal with. She grimaced. Are you sure it's all right? No, of course not. Where are we going? Separate ways. What? You're not going off and leaving me? Ace, he said, keying in coordinates. Managing everything on my own can get very exhausting. How much do you know about Persian carpets? They make lousy bridges, she said warily. Just tell me after I've had a bath. He frowned at something at the base of the console and crouched awkwardly. A little cluster of the light flowers was growing there. He plucked one of the blooms. It'll be all right, Ace. Trust me. She smiled weakly as he edged the flower behind her ear and snubbed her nose. I do, Professor. That's where the trouble always starts. In a corner, behind a mound of tangled bric-a-brac, the silver cat stopped washing itself and stared round with darting, predatory eyes.